Hi, Hi. Hello world, my name is Denominator and you read that right, Discussionator is back. It only took a couple of years and a lot of procrastination, but it's kind of funny. The last time I talked about a movie on this channel was the Sonic movie, and now here we are talking about the Mario movie. Seems kind of fitting. I know I never really reviewed the second Sonic movie. I just kind of fell away from looking at films for a while on this channel, but that's something I want to change. As a matter of fact, the whole productivity thing in general is something I want to change around here. Little projects in between the bigger things like the Chibi Robo stuff, and I am still working on it, I swear. And I just thought about the fact that I also reviewed Scoob in the middle of all of this, and the fact that I forgot about it until now, well, that says a lot. So, in case you haven't noticed, or you've been living under a rock, I understand that people are still coming back out to the surface, there's been a lot of Mario movie news going around lately. Now, let me tell you, I've got some takes about this one. I don't know if they're all hot takes, but I do want to talk about this film because, well, it's the Mario movie. Now, I am fully aware that we have had a Mario movie before this. As a matter of fact, there's been a couple of Japanese exclusive anime that are also considered Mario movies, but this is the big theatrical production that Nintendo's been talking about for some time now. I mean, gosh, we were starting to wonder if it was ever coming out, but this year, we got our first trailer, a second trailer, and now an exclusive clip at the Game Awards, something that I basically never watch. What can I say? They baited me. But what we got, I'd say it's pretty much worth talking about. There is a lot to discuss here. So what I want to do for this is basically talk about each thing that we've seen so far, in order. Now, there's a good chance you've already seen the Bowser meme that I made based off of what everybody else was doing, and yes, I have seen all of these already, and I have to be honest, what I've seen is surprisingly promising given the companies we're working with here, not just Nintendo. So, you know what, before I talk about the other clips, let's talk about that whole situation, okay? Let's talk about Illumination. So for those of you who don't know, Illumination is an animation studio, no duh. But here's the thing about them, their entire goal, their entire purpose is to essentially create films that are affordable to make. I kid you not, this is in their mission statement, okay? They like making affordable films that can easily make back a fair amount of money. And you know what? I gotta admire their transparency for that. It's not every day that you see a company just outright say, yeah, we like to make things on the cheap. And we're in the entertainment industry. So what is the problem with this? Well, look, I don't want to get into all sorts of details and talk about this company for too long because then we'd be here for hours. What I do want to talk about is their track record. And if I'm going to be honest, I don't really like most of it. Now, Illumination started out with a movie called Despicable Me, a film that I'm going to guess that a lot of you have already seen or at least heard of. And, you know, I think I'm in the pretty general crowd here when I say that this was a pretty good movie. Now, oh, actually, hang on a minute. No, they might have started with... Was Hop their first... Hang on a second. No, wait. There's no way that Hop was their first movie. Wait, Illumination... Their first movie was... Was their first movie Despicable Me? Oh my goodness, yeah, it was. And then they immediately followed it up with Hop. That is so bad. Hop is probably one of the 5 worst movies I've seen. It's just... whew. And you know what, the fact that it took me this long to remember which of the films came first and everything that came after, that kind of says a lot. I'm gonna be honest, I don't like most of Illumination's library. I think Despicable Me was a pretty high peak for them. The second one is okay, the third one is pretty pointless. And don't get me wrong, I get it, they make family movies, and family animation is kind of Disney's thing, and hey, they're very good at what they do. I'd say DreamWorks, Blue Sky before they got bought out, I thought that they were all pretty good at what they did. And I still think that Disney and DreamWorks do a fantastic job on most of their movies. Yeah, they have a couple of misses, you know, you got your Boss Babies, you've got your Good Dinosaurs, but For the most part, they've had a pretty standard track record that, we all expect a level of quality from them. But Illumination, with this mission statement of making films as cheap as possible, combining that with their track record in the past, it makes it hard to be excited for an Illumination movie. And that's kind of the weird thing, because here's Nintendo coming to not Disney, not DreamWorks, not even Pixar or a smaller studio like the one who just made, Ron's Gone Wrong, the movie about that cute little robot. I really like that one. So many animation studios they could have come to, and they choose Illumination. Why? This is Nintendo we're talking about, so let's think backwards here. Nintendo likes money. I don't know if you've noticed, but they really like money. And I'm willing to bet that despite knowing this was going to be a big step for them and maybe even a big risk, they probably didn't want to spend too much money on the project, and were only going to do it if it was going to have like a major success rate. So in some ways, I gotta be honest, choosing Illumination is surprisingly in character for Nintendo. That's just my take. And, it wouldn't bother me so much if it weren't for the fact that Miyamoto being on board means that this is probably going to be one of the safest movies that you can imagine. How much control did Nintendo have over this movie? It's Miyamoto's baby, basically, and we all know how he feels about the Mario universe. He likes having his control over it, so what are we going to get here? Well, we got our first trailer a couple of months ago, so let's talk about that one first. I thought that this was a fantastic trailer. I'm going to have to be very sparse in the footage I'm using here, so I apologize if what you're seeing is basically a slideshow, but somebody, either Illumination, Nintendo, or another company, have been taking down clips based on this thing left and right, like even just audience reactions. So unless it's heavily edited footage, chances are you're just going to see a couple of slides here and there, so I apologize for that. But let's just go from beginning to end and talk about this thing. I think that Bowser's reveal is fantastic, and it sets a really good tone for the movie. Especially given that this was a teaser trailer, they could have easily just given us a quick introduction to Mario and left it at that. Made Bowser like the highlight of the second trailer, made it a build-up of sorts. But no, they start with Bowser on this giant floating lava island. And it's funny, Bowser's had his own flying castles before. He's kidnapped Peach's castle and also flown with that. That's just thought about how much of a recurring trend that is in the Mario universe. It's kind of funny. But yeah, this is not the first time that we've seen something like this, but instead of a castle, he's got like an entire floating island, almost as if he overtook it. You know what I mean? We've seen from the posters and such that basically this world just has floating islands and stuff hanging out all over the place. Like even the Mushroom Kingdom itself near the castle just has like floating bricks, floating islands. That seems to be like a common thing they're just kind of making normal in this universe, which, yeah, fair enough. I can see why they're doing that. I kinda like it. I think it's a really nice take on Bowser and his presence. He makes himself very much known in this first scene. And of course, I gotta talk about him being played by Jack Black. I think his voice for Bowser is probably gonna be the best thing about this movie. It's just that good. Jack Black is, let's face it, he's talented. The guy knows what he's doing when he really wants to act. He takes himself seriously, but he's also like a comedian, so he's seriously funny. And I think some of his deliveries on this trailer and the second trailer alone combined, they're great. They fit this character wonderfully. Like, let's keep something in mind here. Bowser, as much as we want to take him seriously as the Mario villain that everybody is familiar with, he's not that serious. You know what I mean? Everything about Bowser screams like the overpowering tyrant who just kind of likes to take things over because he can. And that's kind of what he does here. He makes his presence known. He even lets the penguins, which are the Mario 64 penguins, I know, he just kind of lets them attack him with snowballs, sort of brushes it off, and then he does his thing. He's just kind of funny, and he also has a threatening presence to him, and I think that's important. Bowser has presence, and I think That's going to be the best thing about having this character being so prominent in the film, is that when he's on screen, you're really going to feel that he is a threat to this universe, even if he gets to be a little goofy here and there. I think that fits Jack Black's character perfectly. And just from what we get to see of this world, you can see why Bowser is a problem, you know? You've got all of these races. We've seen little clips of Yoshi's Island. We've seen the penguins. I love that the penguins have their own ice palace. It reminds me of, there's an ice palace in Paper Mario, I want to say, on the 64. There are so many little nods and references that I'll get back to, but basically, I think this world looks good. And just seeing like the few races and species so far, we've pretty much established that, yeah, there's not a lot of threats here, except for maybe the Kongs that we'll get to later. Bowser is the biggest danger to them. So yeah, great opening. We also got like a single line from Kamek, and I think he sounds pretty good. It's kind of funny how they made him like kind of withered, you know? And I've never really considered this, but like, I guess when you compare him to other Koopas, Kamek has always looked like, you know, the elder figure of sorts. And yeah, that makes sense. He's a wizard. He's experienced. I don't really know much about his voice actor, but I think he sounds pretty good. The penguins having super deep voices is it's kind of predictable for an Illumination movie, as is the shot where they start attacking and you zoom out real quick to see that they're doing nothing because they're throwing snowballs. Haha. I still think it was executed pretty well, even if like the joke was, you could really see where it was going as soon as it started. But then Bowser gets to just kind of decimate the entire castle and he melts it down. It was cool. It was threatening. You know, I felt like, ooh, I would not want to be there. And that's not something that I expected from anything about this film. I thought I was going to lean so heavily into the comedy that that's all there was. But no, like the animation on Bowser and his fire breath is pretty good. Watching the castle fall is surprisingly cool. I am so ashamed that that's the first word that came to mind.
That was cool. Entirely intended.
And then of course there's the last scene of the trailer, and I can't avoid talking about this anymore, so I gotta give my take on it. Chris Pratt is Mario. Chris Pratt is Mario. Chris Pratt is not Mario, guys. I'm sorry. I have heard so many people giving their own spin on this and how they feel about it because, you know, I'm not going to pretend that Chris Pratt is not a great actor. I have really liked his performances from what little I've seen of him. Apparently he's in a show called Parks and Rec. I haven't watched that. The two main performances that I have seen from him are in the Lego Movie and in Guardians of the Galaxy. And I think he is fantastic in both of those, especially the Lego Movie. Like, he has a very straight man voice in that, where he's just kind of, you know, playing the normal guy to all the insanity happening around him, but he still manages to sound confident when he needs to.
I am a master builder! Take that!
I'd say in Guardians, he's very well spoken, and he plays the role of Star-Lord pretty well too. But Mario. This is probably one of the most predictable Hollywood castings that we have ever seen, and at the same time, everybody was caught off guard by it. And when he announced that he was Mario, I think it was on Twitter after the movie announcement, he was talking about it, like, you know, he made a joke, like, that's not the voice, it's not the voice. I'm not gonna just walk up on stage and say, it's a me, a Mario. Look, I don't want to go too deep into this, but from the footage of all the trailers and clips we've seen, I don't think Chris is making this movie any better. As a matter of fact, he might be taking it down a couple of points. I understand that there is a different way to look at this, every way you can possibly spin it, and I could be completely off the mark here, but in my opinion, Chris Pratt is not trying here. And we've seen him trying. He's played an animated character or two. He's played live action characters. He knows how to voice act. And when he doesn't, he's kind of like a Ben Schwartz where you can't unhear the character. Ben Schwartz plays Sonic. He also plays Louie Duck. He also plays Leo in Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. He plays all those characters well, but the problem is you can always tell it's his voice because he's a very specific kind of voice, you know? He's cocky, he's high-pitched, he's into it, you know? He's got like the overconfident, I'm not sure really what to call it. It's uniquely his, but it does get a little tiring hearing it all the time. And for Chris Pratt to sound exactly like Chris Pratt in these trailers, except in a few points where he kind of has like a little inflection in his voice, I'm sorry guys, I don't like it. I think that there is potential for him to, you know, work his way up to it. I have a tiny theory that maybe as he continues on through his adventures that he gets like a little more holly jolly, or did I really just say holly jolly? He sounds more jolly towards the end per se, because he does his little wahoo thing while they're riding Mario Karts. And like, I have watched this clip in multiple languages. Everybody is doing the wahoo better. Charles Martinet, okay? Let's talk about Charles Martinet real quick. He's apparently going to be in this movie. I have a theory that there's going to be a little multiverse aspect to this film. It's probably going to be very brief if it actually happens. And I'm thinking that there is going to be a regular Mario or something in this universe. You know, like in another, oh no. This actually leads into the second trailer, so let's talk about that real quick. We get to see how Mario gets to the Mushroom Kingdom. He's coming from a city, and it's apparently a real world city, but fortunately, as far as we know, it is not like the real world. He does have like a bit of an accent, I guess. If you really want to stretch it, he kind of sounds like he might be going for a New Yorkie thing, and that has been a thing with Mario media in the past. Okay, fine. Charles Martinet being in the movie makes me wonder what else is going on here. We don't get to see how Mario actually enters the Mushroom Kingdom, like from his world, but we do get to see him flying through like these little, it's very much like a multiverse type of space portal sort of thing, you know, like tunnels and all that stuff. And then he comes out of a pipe. I have a very distinct theory that there might be some kind of multiverse aspect to all of this. Like, for maybe half a second, we see Mario in a bunch of different forms. You know, like, maybe there's one where he's in the Olympic Games and one where he's never been to the Mushroom Kingdom, but he still has, like, the mustache and everything, and he looks like regular Mario. It's really hard for me not to think this, because the multiverse thing has been going on in a lot of films lately, and it would not surprise me if Illumination tried to cash in on that, and so everybody would talk on Twitter and other social media like, ooh, it's the Mario-verse, you know? Like, I'm not the only one who thinks that this is very feasible, right? And, you know, here's the thing. People talk about Charles Martinet not being able to hold a whole movie, you know? I've heard this a lot. Like, okay, so Mario is like very kind of pitchy, high-pitched, upbeat, running out of ways to say high-pitch, but you get the idea. People are saying that it'd be hard to listen to that for a whole hour and a half. Here's what I don't get. Charles Martinet has been playing Mario for so many years, we spend hours in 3D Mario games listening to him do his thing. Has Mario's voice ever been annoying to anybody during that? I personally don't think so. As a matter of fact, playing games like Luigi's Mansion 3, where you get to hear a lot more utterances and little voice inflections with Charles playing Luigi, I don't know, man. I think he sounds pretty fun. And anytime he reacts to something, it just kind of makes the performance of the game more interesting, because you're getting more of a character out of him than you do out of Mario in most of his games. Weirdly enough, I want to say Mario plus Rabbids is a really weird version of this, like an example of this, because they reuse most of Mario's voice lines in this game, and it's so predictable and you can always hear when it's coming that it makes me almost wish that he had more lines. So clearly there's room for this, right? I can't be the only one who thinks that Mario would sound fine in a movie, and Charles, being that he's got the talent he does, could easily, just tone his voice down a little bit for the film. But whatever, I can't make their decision on this. This is what they're going with, so I guess we just have to put up with it. I know I've been rambling on about this point for a little bit now, but I guess my overall issue is that it feels like Charles is going to be the biggest thing bringing this movie down. So let's just move on from that, and we'll be hopeful that whatever ends up happening is a good thing. Anyway, let's talk about the rest of the second trailer. I thought this one was really good. We get to see a tiny bit of the city that Mario comes from. Like, he is just a normal plumber, and he and Luigi have their plumbing business. That is it. That's the setup, and it's probably going to be a lot like Super Show, where he travels to the Mushroom Kingdom through a pipe that shows up by mistake, or he falls into a shower or something. I don't know, dude. Whatever. Pauline is apparently going to be in this city, which, guys, the rise of Pauline has been fantastic. Okay, I played Mario vs. Donkey Kong as a kid, the second one in specific, and I love Pauline. Okay, she's a great character. Obviously, she used to be kind of one note before, but now she's got this whole marrying thing going on in New Donk City in Super Mario Odyssey. If they bring that back, if Mario comes from New Donk City and basically like another world instead of, say, Brooklyn, New York, or some other like predictable area, I think that would be better, and I like that it ties into the Mario universe if that's the case. So we also get to see a lot of world building for the Mushroom Kingdom in this trailer. There's like a whole Donkey Kong island basically, which that checks out. I think it's going to be called something different in the film because Cranky Kong is like the elder and DK is just kind of like another monkey. We get to see Mario going up against Donkey Kong, presumably to get the Kongs on their side in the fight against Bowser, and Mario predictably gets kind of beat up. And they're playing off of this idea that before Mario got to the Mushroom Kingdom, he was just a plumber, and so he shows up in this world and he's like useless. It's weird because this is not the first time Chris Pratt has played this character. If you've seen the Lego movie, this is basically the exact same character, He's got a normal job, a normal life, and then he goes to join up with this team of heroes in another place that he's never been to before that opens his eyes up to the wonders of the universe, and he goes on his hero's journey in order to take down a big bad. I just described what I'm pretty sure is going to be 2 movies, and I really hope that they don't play off of Mario being like this useless guy for too long, because first of all, mad respect to your plumbers. Come on, they do a good job. I certainly hope they do a good job. Mine does a good job. I've never hired a plumber in my life, but I don't know where I was going with this. Point being that Mario being useless is a weird thing to play off of, and I really hope they don't, just work with that for too long and actually get to things that people are excited about, like him doing Mario things. But I do like how we're visiting the Donkey Kong like island, whatever that's actually going to be named. I think that it's going to be a pretty fun time seeing Mario interact with DK for the first time. I think all the Kong designs look fantastic. Cranky, Dixie, Diddy, they're all there. And at the end of this trailer, we get to see Mario Kart. Mario Kart is just a thing. I guess they make a bunch of vehicles together, maybe with the help of the Kong family, and they all go off on Rainbow Road itself to fight Bowser. I think it looks fun. This part of the movie is gonna excite me a lot. The next thing I want to talk about is the clip from the Game Awards, which I'm gonna have to be real careful about showing bits of, because I'm telling you, again, the DMCA takedowns or whatever have been insane for this. But everything about this clip is great. The thing that interested me the most is the music. I've been wondering about this ever since the movie was announced. What kind of music is this thing gonna go for? for the most part, I think Nintendo having a big hold on their property for this movie has been a great thing, because we have not gotten a single pop song, not a single predictable trailer with some kind of music that, you know, has billions of views and it's from like a really popular era. Nothing. It's been all orchestra. Okay, orchestra and electronic sounds. I will say that the trailer music is not great. It's like very electronic with all of the cinematic hits like. Another thing that I would say is predictable about this trailer so far. But the clip, we basically had no actual movie music to go off of until this clip. It's so good. Mario is basically exploring the Mushroom Kingdom for the first time, led by this Toad with a backpack that I really hope turns out to be like a Captain Toad character for him, because that would be so cool. I absolutely love the music during this. There are at least 10 references across all of Mario's history in the span of a minute. It's so good. And if the whole movie soundtrack is like this, I'm gonna have it on repeat for the rest of my life. I love when Mario dives into orchestra and jazz. I don't know why I said orchestra the way that I did, but we're gonna move on. I love Mario's orchestra history. And Super Mario Galaxy was one thing, okay? But earlier this year, we got Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battles sequel, Sparks of Hope. And the first game had like some orchestra and stuff. It was Grant Kirkhope for the most part. I think he made the entire soundtrack. This one, this sequel has music from Gareth Coker, Grant Kirkhope again, and Yoko Shimomura, composer for the Mario and Luigi series and Kingdom Hearts. And oh my gosh, this soundtrack is so good. So, considering that we have people with an entire actual orchestra on them for this movie, I am so excited. I kind of wish, in a way, that, you know, if they could get Yoko or anybody else from the Mario RPGs or Galaxy on this movie, I would be so excited. But either way, they've got so much talent packed into this one scene that I have no doubt in my mind the soundtrack is going to be the best part of the movie. Everything else is kind of like a hero's journey thing that I expected so far, but nothing is really screaming to me that this is going to be an outright disaster or, oh my gosh, it's a bad thing. It's, you know, it's not, I don't think it's going to fall flat as far as like mediocrity goes. I think it'll go pretty well, but that soundtrack is so important because Mario's history and music is almost as recognizable as Mario himself. Okay, so I've been talking for a little while and I'm gonna wrap it up soon, but I guess the biggest thing that I want to talk about before I close up here is I think that this movie is actually gonna be okay. I don't think it's gonna be fantastic, but when this was first revealed, we got Illumination as the director, and then we heard nothing for years. Then we got the voice cast, and I think the internet is still recovering from that. I will admit, all the things I've been talking about so far, whenever I mention something predictable, my heart kind of sinks a little bit because I've watched so much animation in my time. Started going to old man mode here. Back in my day, music used to be better and films used to be more original. No, I don't want to do that for too long. My point is that I've seen a lot of movie tropes, and especially animation tropes in family movies from all of the companies I mentioned earlier. And, you know, especially the things in the second trailer, you know, like the extended cinematic music, if you will. Peach is like a girl boss now, and she's got the biker outfit from Mario Kart Wii. I will admit she looks kind of cool, and I love seeing her using power-ups as well. We get to see her using the Fire Flower at some point. I think that looks awesome. I really hope that she has more dimension to her character than this, because Peach really doesn't get to do much outside of the Mario spin-offs. Sorry to mention Mario plus Rabbids again, but in that game, she is, like in the first one, fighting alongside the other heroes, and she still uses all the same sound effects. from like 10 years ago, just like Mario does. And I feel like they either try to make Peach a damsel in distress for everything, or if for whatever reason she doesn't get kidnapped in her particular game, that she ends up just kind of being a partner or a sidekick where she's just kind of like, go me, woo. And I mean, it's nice to see Peach playable outside of just like a sports game, like in Mario Kart or Mario Baseball or something like that. I love to see her playable in the RPGs, just like I love to play as Bowser. But I feel like her character only ever goes two places, and if she's gonna be this like a powerful princess monarch who can also fend for herself, then I really hope that there is at least more to her than what we normally get, you know? We're getting to see all of these toads, and I mean, unfortunately it looks like the Mushroom Kingdom is going to be primarily inhabited by toads, mostly non-original characters. I think Toadette might get a name drop or something. The Mario RPG spin-offs usually like do more with the species of the Mushroom Kingdom. I would love to see Piantus from Sunshine, more enemy varieties. We get to see some Bitty Buds in one of the trailers, and a Cheep Cheep is apparently being kept as a fish, like just as a pet. I find that kind of funny. I feel like it just kind of goes to show that there are a few issues I have with this movie possibly being predictable, and I'm really hoping that they don't go in that direction because I want to see this movie do well. I want to see more Nintendo stuff, you know? The Mario movie, it seems to be this establishing thing for Nintendo right now, where they're like, okay, if this is good, maybe, you know? They seem to have a lot of things they want to reference in this film as if they could make more content with it, you know? Like, they have their own movie studio now, even though the Mario movie isn't done, so clearly they're hoping that this does well. And if it does, we could get, there's so much potential. Maybe a Donkey Kong movie, a Metroid. Can you imagine a Metroid or a Zelda movie? That would be amazing. So I guess the thing I want to see most at this point is more establishing of the universe and you know, maybe just more dimensions to these characters than we expect, because we don't get to really see much of that with Mario or Luigi. Every now and then we get to see Mario delve into like another bit of his personality, but it never goes farther. I'm not saying I need that for the games, but this is a movie, so let's go all the way with it, you know? If we're gonna see Mario in this other universe dimension, if you will, the movie dimension Mario. I can't believe I'm saying that. It's surreal, if you will. But if we're gonna go there, let's get a little deeper. Let's see how it is. Let's see how Mario feels about being Mario, you know? I'm excited. We've only got a couple of months until this comes out. And you know what? Mario kind of fell into a really awful state for a while of mediocrity. I think 3D World and Odyssey is really when he started to climb out of that. But now that we're out of it, and we're no longer in the Wii U era with New Super Mario Bros. Being Mario's primary franchise, and seeing more creative spin-offs come out like Paper Mario the Origami King, Mario plus Rabbids, and even Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games, if you will. I think that this movie is in better hands than I expected. Most people, when they heard about this film, we were concerned that it was either going to be really crazy and fun and great, or really, really bad. The voice cast didn't help things, but I think that my concern about that happening with this film is pretty much diminished now, and I'm just waiting to see how good is it. Is it gonna be just fine? Is it gonna be really good? Could it be great? Maybe it'll lead to more Nintendo movies in the future. And you know what? If they're gonna have their chains on this one really heavily, I get it. It's Mario, and you can't stray too far away from the source material or Miyamoto will kill you. But I think with Nintendo's other franchises, because they've had less time to simmer and be established so much, I think a Metroid or Zelda or Donkey Kong movie, or geez, even a Kirby movie at this point, I think any of those could have the opportunity to go some really creative directions. So let's see how creative this one is willing to get. I think the animation for everything is pretty good, despite Illumination usually putting a ridiculous amount of bloom on everything to make stuff look too bright and oversaturating the whole picture. I think this one is pretty decently good looking. I like the colors. I don't think anything is too bright or distracting, and that's more than I can say for most of their films. You know, I think we're in good hands. I'm looking forward to this movie. I'm actually considering going to see a movie in theaters since Sonic the Hedgehog 1. That's kind of insane. I kind of stayed out of the movie theaters for a while. I've kind of already talked about one of my disabilities on this channel, one being vertigo. Movie theaters tend to make me dizzy. That's just how it is. So ever since the Sonic movie and COVID kind of hit and people stopped going to theaters as often, I just kind of stopped going. But if anything was gonna get me back into the theater, it would be this. I'd want to watch it with friends. I think I will. I think I will go see it with friends and figure out what this thing is gonna be like. And I probably will review it because this is a pretty big deal. So I hope you're all excited for it as I am, and if you're not, please tell me why. I want to hear what other people's thoughts are on this thing because I've heard every edge of the spectrum at this point, except from my own viewers. So let me know what you guys think. And until then, I do apologize for the lack of stuff going up on this channel that's of more substance, but I promise it's all being worked on. And hey, I only have one semester, so I'm almost there. So in the meantime, I'm gonna kind of try to keep doing stuff like this. You know, things to just connect with you guys as I continue to work on bigger projects in the background. And I know that that's kind of the usual speech that goes at the end of these when I disappear, but I mean it. I want to make better stuff for everybody here. So thank you all for watching, and as always, this is Denominator signing off. See you later, Ominators. Until next video.